Alright guys, welcome to the next lesson of our matrix unit, and this session is going to be looking into encoding and decoding information using your matrices. Now what we're going to look into for this is related to how matrices is used practically in the real life. Okay, and here it says matrices can be used to decode words so that each letter does not have the same number throughout the coded message. So matrices can be used to actually encode a message so that it can't be decoded easily. This makes the message extremely difficult to decode without knowing the secret encoding matrix. So the keyword there is this secret encoding matrix. We will use this simple table below. So this table, okay, it's going to be used below with the letters numbered in order, but use a matrix to encode the final message. So in this table, we can see that the letter A is represented with the number 1, B is represented with the number 2, C is 3, D is 4, so on and so forth until you get up to Z. And spaces are represented with the number 27. Alright, so that means whenever I write a message, say for example, hello, okay, that message would look like this. So H is 8, E is 5, L is 12, so 2 12s, and the letter O is the number 15. So that's my message. 8, 5, 12, 12, 15. Now that's easy to decode because you can just match it actually with the letters and numbers there. But the good thing about matrices is you can actually encode this, okay, to actually make it harder to understand or decode what the message was. So here we go. Let's do this. So encode this message, meet me, then show how to decode the encoded message using encoding matrix C. So we're going to use this matrix to actually encode and decode the message. Okay. So the first part is write the letters in a 2x4 matrix. Remember the message was meet me. That's the message, yeah. So maybe in war, if you need to meet up with your soldiers, you could actually look at this and send it to somebody behind enemy lines, for example. And they're telling him to meet. So it says here, write the letters in a 2x4 matrix. That means there's 2 rows and 4 columns. Now that's important because whenever you do a message, or when you're doing a question like this where you have to encode and decode a message, always make your matrix a 2x4, at least 2 rows. So all messages should have be in 2 rows, yeah? And that's because a lot of the matrices that you'll be given to encode is just going to be a 2x2, sorry. So always make it 2 rows. Okay, so for example, if we need to fit meet me into a 2x4 matrix, so that means we need to have 2 rows and 4 columns. Okay, so if we're going to split that into this matrix here, so it's going to have M, E, E, T. So there's your first row. And then the word me, well, this is where, if you have a look at this message, there's actually a space there, yeah? So I might include a space here, okay, for my first element of the second row, and then me, so M-E, okay, but I'm left with one more that I need to fill in. I might just put another space there. Remember, the spaces are represented with the number 27. Okay, so there's my message in a matrix. Okay, the next part is replace each letter with a number. Okay, so now we need to replace the message with numbers so we can try and encode it. So M is the number 13. All right, so that means M here will be 13. All the E's are 5, so E there is 5, so let's change E to 5, 5 and 5. T is the number 20, there. So fix and change that to 20, oops, 20. And then a space is the number 27, okay. 27, and I know that me, M, was 13, remember, and E was 5, and the spaces were 27. So there's my message with numbers now. Still easy to decode if you actually have this chart here. But now how do we encode this? So the next part here is to encode a message. You need to multiply it with matrix C, which is, remember, the coding matrix, this guy. Okay, so C equals 2, 1, 3, 2. So this coding matrix is 2, 1, 3, 2. Okay, so what we need to do is to code something. Okay, we need to multiply it with matrix C, which is the encoding matrix. So I might write down here that general instruction here. So to encode a message. Okay, it's going to be the encoding matrix multiplied by the message. Okay, times the message. Times whatever your message was. Remember, your message has to have 2 rows, and the number of columns depends on what letters and spaces you're working with. But this is a general rule to encode a message. It's the encoding matrix, okay, multiplied by the message. So in this case, the encoding matrix, remember, was that C matrix. So it's going to be C times M, which is this matrix here. This is the message matrix, yeah? So to encode, it's going to be C by M, which means that it's going to be matrix C, which was, again, 2, 1, 3, 2. So 2, 1, 3, 2, multiplied by the message matrix, which was this matrix. So 13, 5, 5, 20, 27, 13, 5, 27. So when you actually multiply this together, you will now see, okay, that if someone were to try and decode the message, it would be pretty hard for them, okay, because they don't know, they're not going to know what the encoding matrix is unless you give it to them. Okay, so this is my C matrix. Let me write that down. So 2, 3, 2. This is your C matrix. Oops. C. So every time I press C, it's that. And then my message matrix was this. Alright, so let's make a 2. Oops. This is a 2 by 4. So 2 rows and 4 columns. Alright, so you got 13, 5, 5, 20, 27, 13, 5, 27. So this is called your M matrix, which is the message matrix. Alright, so to encode it, okay, and remember the general rule that I gave you. To encode a message, it's this encoding matrix multiplied by your message. So when you do that, on your CAS, so C multiplied by M equals that 107, 49, 25, and all that. Okay, so let me write it all down. So if you can see now, this is actually really hard. Sorry guys, just gonna move my CAS here so I can see it. So this is going to be really hard to actually decode, because if you were trying to hack this, you would not actually know what the message is saying, because there is no 107, there's no 49, there's no 25, well there is. There's no 121, there's no 67, there's no 31, no 50, oh there is a 15, and there's a 74, but again, you can't actually match any of these numbers with your table. Okay, because, well, yeah, it's mixed up. So this is now when you send the message to somebody, this is it. Like, no one can hack it unless you decode it. Okay, so now the next part to do is we now need to know how to decode the message. Okay, decoding. So to decode a message, this is a general rule that you guys can use. to decode messages, it's going to be the inverse. So inverse of coding. So you need to find the inverse of that coding matrix. So find the inverse of this guy. Okay, inverse of that, and then multiply that. So times. Okay, and then you multiply that obviously with the secret message. Secret message. So secret encoded message. So this is a general rule that you can use to actually encode and then decode a message. All right, so how do we decode this message now? So that original message, or the encoded message with the crazy numbers, is this here: 107, 49, 25, 121, 67, 31, 15, and 74. Okay, so you have that as your crazy message. You can't decode it. So now, in order to decode it, we need to find the inverse of that matrix there. So let me move this really quickly. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, move just over here. Okay, so now in order to find the inverse of this, remember you can just do this on your calculator, but basically you're gonna go 2, 3, 1, 2. Inverse of that multiplied by this, because remember it's that inverse matrix, inverse of the decoded matrix. So it's going to be C inverse multiplied by the encoded message, which is C times M. All right, so when you work that out on your calculator, okay, oops. So my C matrix, remember, was this. So if I press C, there it is. Okay, and this is my crazy message matrix. So if I find the inverse of this matrix, so remember, if a recap on how to find the inverse, power of -1. Okay, there's your inverse. So that means it's this matrix multiplied by the encoded matrix, which is this. And that brings us back to this point. And then from there, once you get back to that point, it's just a matter of, okay, matching these numbers with these letters, okay, to decode the message, which was now back to, gives us back to that point of 13, 5, 5, 20. And then we use that to decode the message. So we get back to this point, 13, 5, 5, 20, 27, 13, 5, 27. And then we decode it, and it becomes, remember 13 was M, 5 was E, 5 was also E, 20 was T, 27 was a space, 13 was a M, E was a 5, 5 was an E, and then 27 was a space. So there's the message, meet me. Okay, hope that's made sense, guys. And once you've done once you've watched the video, go ahead and do 5i. You don't need to do this activity. So we're not doing that. So just do exercise 5i.